Well, happy Bulletproof Monday, everyone. Susan Sly here, and I hope you're having an amazing day. I am working at my home office today. So much is going on, and first and foremost, I want to welcome and acknowledge you. I do this show just for you. So on Bulletproof Mondays, this is the chance for me to share topics like entrepreneurship and mindset and really help you become bulletproof in business. And I know building a business is not easy. I know at times it can be tough juggling, work and life and maybe kids, aging parents, pets, all of it, and trying to go out there and do great things in the world. So these Mondays are designed to really help you get your focus, get your head on straight, and of course we have a lot of fun. Today's topic is the art of following up and closing. And I would just say, if this is a topic for you, which I'm sure it is, regardless of the kind of business you're in, I would encourage you to take some notes. I'm going to go through some stats on following up and closing. And of course, we're going to, leave here hopefully having you feel empowered and inspired. And just a few things. If you're regular to the show, so I see Ivy and Bruce. I see my father's here. Hey Nancy, it's great to see you too. And so many of you come every single Monday. Hey Johnny, aloha to you. And Kim, if this show is helpful to you today, I would love for you to share it. Go ahead and comment. I do read all your comments. And if you have a topic, this is one of the most requested topics I receive. Go to susansly.com. You can submit a little text chat and that will come to me, and I do entertain the topics for sure. Couple quick announcements. My signature class, Organize Your Life, which is 6 weeks of intensive getting you organized, not just really in your physical environment, but inside your head as well. We focus on money and relationships. We focus on business, health. This is the last time I am teaching this class live, and that starts on September the 24th. This is the last week to get it at a just ridiculous discount, $250 off with the code LUCKYCAT, all small letters. So go to susansly.com and you can purchase it today, and then after that the price is going to go up, so you can get it for $250 off. It's crazy. And I do live coaching with you during those classes as well. If you love to have free coaching, you can also go to susansly.com. Anyone on my list gets an invitation once a month to free live coaching with me. So this is your opportunity to have your very own millionaire mentor. And last week we had another incredible session, so do check it out. I would love to see you there. So let's get into following up and closing. So how many of you are in a business where you need to generate more sales? Nod your head. I hope that's all of you, right? Because you either have to be bringing in clients, customers, team members, all of it. And let's face it, at times it can be tough. And you're in one of a few places. So one is you don't like following up, and so you procrastinate. Or number two is you don't like it, but you do it anyway. Or number three is you love following up. It's like you love it, you love it, you love it. Regardless of the place you're in today, I hope that you leave taking away some great information that can help you grow your business, regardless of what it is. And so let's get into these stats. I pulled these stats for you yesterday, so just a little bit of fun here. And so 92% of all customer interactions happen over the phone. So I know some of you are like DMing people and stuff like that, but ultimately you're gonna close more sales when people hear it in your voice, or at least get on a Zoom or something like that. Number two, it takes an average of 8 cold calls to reach a prospect. It takes an average of 8 cold call attempts to reach a prospect. Number three is the best time to cold call is between 4 p.m. and 5 p.m. Did you guys know that? I didn't actually know that one. Number four, 30 to 50% of sales go to the vendor who responds first. So if you have a Facebook business page, people, you should turn it on that people can actually message you that way. And people who respond the fastest, they get the sale. And I know this to be true in my own end. Recently, I wanted to have some work done in the house, so I reached out to 3 different people. The first one to get back to me got thousands of dollars in contract work. So there you go. 80% of sales happen after 5 follow-ups. 80% after 5 follow-ups. So just think about that. Yet 44% of reps give up after the first attempt. So most people, if the person they're following up and the person's not getting back to them, they just give up. But 4 more times they could make that sale. And I know some of you are like, well, I don't want to bother people, Susan. Well, the question is this: how badly do you want to make the sale? Number 7, Thursday is the best time of day to prospect, followed by Wednesday. So hopefully, hey Gianni, hey Trish. So Thursday is the best time of day to prospect, followed by Wednesday. So hopefully all of you are super organized, using a day planner. So mark out Thursday as your top prospecting day. And I really believe that one is because people are a little more at ease. Thursday, they're kind of going into the weekend. Monday, Tuesday is just, there's a lot going on. I know for myself, Mondays are action-packed. And as an aside, for those of you who follow along in my personal life, my son is, he is on the autism spectrum, and I coach his cross-country team. And today is the first day of cross-country. So right after BPM, I'm going to be changing, heading to his school, and having kids run in 110 degrees Fahrenheit. So I decided to work from home today just because there was so much going on. Number 8, in a typical firm with 100 to 500 employees, an average of 7 people are involved in buying decisions. So if you are, one of my first calls this morning was to a very large corporation, and we had 4 decision makers on the phone. So I know for us to get that deal, there were probably a few other people in the chain of command for it to go through, and that's totally fine. You just have to know that. And so if you're pitching, and especially I'm speaking to those of you who might be pitching business ideas, if you're pitching, one of the questions you want to say is, who on your team needs to be in that meeting? Right? Because again, if you have people who are, say, at a lower level and can't make decisions, you're going to have to go to the next person, the next person, the next person. So the goal I always have is to make sure as many of the decision makers are on the Zoom or the call or the face-to-face as possible. Number 9, 78% of salespeople use social media to outsell their peers. Now, I know many of you are just amazing at social media. So over 78% of people are going to look at your social media or your company's social media before they make a buying decision or even a follow-up decision. So you do have to outperform. And one of the best ways to do that is to engage with the people as much as possible. So when I do BPM, you may be watching this, on YouTube, or you might be listening to it on iTunes. But when I do it live, I'm engaging with the people. I see who's here. Hey, Pat. I do, as soon as I'm done, I go and I comment and, all of those things. And so you have a score on social media in terms of what your engagement level is, especially as a business. And that's one of the things that does put you higher. All right, 10. Some of you aren't going to like this. Email is 40% more effective for customer acquisition than Facebook or Twitter. So email is still the language of business. And I know some of you are doing a lot of texting and DMing, as I mentioned earlier, and that's all well and good. But in the world of business, generally speaking, you would take things to an email. And just so you know, for tax purposes, even for legal purposes, emails are still that top priority language. So keeping your email records are really, really important. Number 11, salespeople who actively seek referrals earn 4 to 5 times more than those who don't. So my question for you is, are you asking for referrals? So Bruce has a wine tour business. So one of the things, he has automated his follow-up using Keep by Infusionsoft. So one of the things he does in his automation is asking for the referral. Some of you may notice these days that as soon as you shop somewhere, you're getting an email like rate it, get the customer rating. I just delete most of them because seriously, I would be more likely to do it if it happened in the moment coming to a text. However, that being said, that, one of those things is, yes, the service was great or whatever, but I rarely see a business who's saying, hey, would you give me a referral? Just something to think about. Number 12, 11% of salespeople ask for referrals. So only 11% actually ask for referrals. And in my direct sales business, the number 1 and 2 producers in that team came from referrals. Number 13, 91% of customers said they would actually give referrals. So they would give you the referral if you ask for it, 91%. How many of you, let's get honest, you aren't asking for referrals? Just be honest. It's like a little confessional. It's okay. In the past, I have been guilty of it too. I'm not here to preach at you by any stretch. Number 14, only 13% of customers believe that a salesperson understands their needs. So it's really important in the sales cycle to get your prospect talking as much as possible. And I'll talk about that in a moment. Number 15, retaining current customers costs 6 to 7 times less than acquiring them. So if my friend Janny, who is a millionaire in the direct sales space, if she really pays attention to the customers that she has, they're going to produce more sales volume for her, and it costs her less money than going out and acquiring more. So just something to really think about. I want to get into some really quick tips for becoming masterful at following up and closing sales. And I would just encourage you, social media, you can be so ADD. So it's easy to like jump on here and jump off. But I will say that every Bulletproof Monday, I prepare between 5 to 7, sometimes 11 key things that are on my heart to share with you. And so if you leave and you only get one of them, chances are it's not going to help you increase your referrals. And the last thing I want is for you to say, hey, I jumped on Susan Sly's Live and sorry, my sales didn't increase, not referrals. But anyway, so I would just encourage you, I'm going to bust through these super quick. And I would just encourage you, if you can, unless you have to get kids or attend to something, that you stay on just for at least probably about, I would say, 8 minutes while I go through all of these. All right. So the first one is being highly organized. So in follow-up, it's easy to forget to follow up with people. And how many of you that's happened, right? You just forgot to follow up. And the next thing you know, that customer, potential customer or client goes and does business with someone else, even in your same space. It does happen. So some of the things about being organized are, one, you want to have using a day planner. It's really important to back things up on paper. And of course, I have a cloud-based organizer as well. I still use Outlook for that. And some people use all sorts of different things. But having something, the reason I like a paper planner is because I've got a Lucky Cat sticker. I'm not going to kid you, but I can see the one I use. I can see the whole week all at one time. So, it allows me, this is just like a, showing you, it allows me to take a look and to block out physical time for prospecting for new clients and customers, for following up with people, right? And as I already said, Thursday is the best day statistically to prospect, followed by Wednesday. So thinking about that, if you're spending time Thursday to prospect, Friday is a good day to follow up, right? Wednesday is the second best day. That means the people you're talking to Wednesday, you're following up with on Thursday, and start to carve out those times. A lot of people use a whiteboard, getting the names down, big sheets of paper. I know that for one of my companies that I'm the co-CEO of, my AI company, we just keep a shared Google Doc of our potential clients and customers, and we're just, we look at the doc together. But having that level of organization is really key, because if you aren't organized, you are going to forget, because life is going to happen, and you'll be like, oh yes, this is the day I'm going to sit down, I'm going to do prospecting, I'm going to do my follow-up. But then your child is sick, or you have to run out and you forget to do it, and one thing leads to another. That's why being organized is key. Another thing one of my clients did is she essentially had all of her prospect list with her at all times, and it was all written out. So if she was waiting outside of her daughter's dance recital, she could make some calls, she could do those things. So figure out a way that's going to work for you. The second thing is do your homework. The bigger the deal that you're trying to close, the more homework you need to do. And so what I mean by that is, if, for example, the meeting that I was in this morning, the chief decision maker there, I was looking at his LinkedIn profile. I was looking at his work history. I knew a ton of stuff about him, where he went to university. And that's one of the things I'll do, because the key is with doing the homework is that you want to establish some common ground with people as fast as you physically can. Common ground could be something superficial, like you both have rescue dogs, or you have the same alma mater, or you go to the same church, or whatever the case is. The reason you want to have the common ground is because people do prefer to do business with people with whom they have something in common, right? And so doing your homework, knowing a few key points about the people that you're talking to, is essential. And so what I suggest you do is, let's say Janny is going to do some prospecting. So maybe, you know, the night before, maybe it's Wednesday night, she sits down and she has a list of people she wants to connect to about her business. And so she might just go, depending on where they are, she might go on Facebook or LinkedIn, Instagram, and she's going to take a look and see a few key points about them. If you're doing big business deals, one of the things I always do is I'll Google the person, then I'll click news. So the reason you click news, if they've won any awards or even if they've been in a lawsuit, you know, whatever it is, you can find out more about that person. So again, you're having those common ground connections, but it's very important to keep records on all of the people. And if you're a person who's doing a startup company and you're doing a series raise or something like that, you know, don't just go and be asking people for money without knowing anything about them. To give you an example, yeah, I was talking to a friend, and you know, one of the things that's going on for them is they have a child going to college. They actually cashed out an IRA to be able to do that. And so, you know, just knowing what's going on sometimes for people financially allows you to have that common ground connection. It also allows you to position things in such a way that's going to make sense for that person. All right, number 3, bringing a wing woman or a wing man with permission. So one of the things that I suggest is that you get permission to bring someone with you. So in this meeting this morning, originally they had requested the meeting with me, and I said, would it be okay with you if I bring the co-CEO and our CTO, because in order to serve you better, you might have some very technical questions about our technology, and you know, I want to make sure that we are there making the best use of your time. And they said, absolutely. So one of the things is, you know, get in this position where you're letting people know in advance. So let's say Laura is going to be talking to someone, and you know, they have some questions. What Laura might say is, hey, you know, I want to get your questions answered. Would it be okay if I bring my friend Susan? And here's why. Susan, you know, and she shares a little bit about my background. Don't ever be with someone and cold call with 2 people on the phone, because that triggers some very, very visceral emotions for people. One statistic I read in the United States is 3 out of 5 women have been sexually, verbally, or physically abused. And so sometimes your best intention might be like, hey, let's 2 of us call this person together. However, if you don't have permission, it might actually trigger some emotions for that person. They might feel ganged up on. They might even feel pressured and bullied. And those aren't the emotions that you want to create. So in business, it's always a good idea to just get that permission. All right, number 4 is ask open-ended questions. I'm going to give you right now my favorite question using neuro-linguistic programming, and it changes the tone of the conversation. So are you guys ready for that? Who's ready to know this question? Hopefully you are. So the question goes like this. Let's say I was presenting to Kim. I might say something like this: Kim, in order to make the best use of your time, what information would you like me to cover in our conversation? So I'm going to say that again. In order to make the best use of our time, what information would you like me to cover in our presentation? So I'm not assuming, where some of you aren't following up and you're getting nervous is because you're assuming that you have to know everything about everything. So if you're in a nutrition company, I have to know every ingredient. I have to know medical studies. I have to know all this stuff. Or, you know, technology, I have to know, you know, how edge processing works or something like that. You don't. What you have to know is what's important to the person. So you start with the open-ended questions. A question I asked this morning, so this potential client had sent over a wish list, which I love that they sent a wish list. And one of the questions I said, can you, from your wish list, is this a prioritized list? Because I wanted to sort of get a sense, like get in their head going, is this list in order of what you deem important? Because if it is, it changes the conversation. I was in a meeting last week, and one of the first things, it was a face-to-face meeting. There were like 5 people from their team and 3 people from our team. And I said, you know, in order to make the best use of your time, based on what you've seen about our company, what are the key things you would like us to cover? Now, that means you have to pivot in a moment. but that's okay because that's going to help you close the sale. So Kim Freezy, so she's a life coach. Let's say she offers free 15-minute sessions for the month of September, maximum of 30 people. The first question she wants to ask when she gets on the phone, before she starts talking, she wants to say something like this: Pat, you know, in order to make the most of this 15 minutes together, what is the one thing you want me to cover with you? And Pat might say something like, you know, I'm just feeling, you know, stuck as a woman. Okay, now Kim knows where to go with the situation. It's the same thing in sales. It's the same thing in negotiations. Is that helpful? Hopefully it is. All right. Next thing, number 5. Okay, so sometimes people are going to ask questions, and they're going to ask you either how questions or why questions. A how question usually starts with, how does this work? How can I do this if I like to eat every day? How? A why question is sometimes a challenging question. So they're challenging you. Like, why should I do this? I already eat organic. Or why should I invest in your company? What makes you so much better than everyone else? You'll hear it in their tone. And the reason I delineate between how and why questions is because the why questions can waste your time. The how questions, those are the ones you want to answer fast. So one of the things when someone's asking these types of questions, you want to get people to the point. And I'll say something like this: so what questions can I get answered for you, John, in order for you to make a decision to go ahead and get started? John, what questions can I get answered for you in order for you to go ahead and invest in this company? John, what questions could I get answered for you today in order for us to take it to the next level and have a face-to-face meeting? You want to think about what is the next goal outcome for this follow-up conversation, right? So flushing out their questions is really key. Now, in my direct sales career, when someone is asking why questions, like for instance, like, oh, why should I do this? I already eat organic. So I would say something like this: Janine, if I can get that answered for you, are you going to be ready to go ahead and make a decision to get started? And if Janine was like, well, I knew she wasn't serious. And then I'd say something like this: Janine, let's talk about why you reached out to me in the first place. Let's go back to the fact that you're telling me you're 30 pounds overweight, and now you're telling me you eat organic. We wouldn't be having this conversation if everything was feeling good. Janine, whether you do business with me or not, I don't care. I love you. I support you. And I value your time, and I also value my time. So Janine, let me ask you this question. If this is the thing that is going to help you lose these 30 pounds, what questions do I need to answer for you in order for you to go ahead and get started? Does that make sense, everyone? So I'm forcing Janine to answer the question. You don't have time to waste. You don't have time for people who are going to drag you along. I have someone, I did an investor presentation. So in Radius, we're closing up our seed round. That's the friends and family round. So imagine if you were in the friends and family round of Apple or, you know, all of these big companies, right? So we're closing up this round, and I do a presentation for a friend who's very technical. And so I said to him, you know, are you in or not? And he's like, well, we need to talk to so-and-so. And I said to him, well, if we talk to so-and-so, what is the goal of that conversation? You see, I have no problem asking people questions. Why? Because my time is valuable. So if we need to talk to so-and-so, is just that person's way of stringing me along because they're not ready to invest. Maybe it's financial for them. I don't know. Then don't waste my time. That's the whole thing. Don't waste my time. And some of you are, you know, in this sequence of following up, you're allowing people to waste your time, your beautiful time. You could be spending it with your family. You could be spending it with at the gym. You could be spending it so many places. You're allowing people to waste your time with a bunch of nonsense. Ask the question, get to the point, get the person to a place, find out how serious they are. So the next thing, number 6, is set the next follow-up. Never leave a conversation without the next step, okay? So the bigger the buying decision, the more follow-ups it might take, right? So if someone is buying a, you know, a $5 million house, that might not be like they see the house and they buy it the same day, right? So, you know, one of the things you want to say is, Okay, it's been so great to connect with you today, Janny. I love your goals. I would love to serve you. And, obviously a buying decision like a $5 million house is a big decision. So why don't you go and talk to Craig, and then tomorrow we can follow up. And even if you're not ready to make a decision, here's what I want you to do. I want you to write out every single question you have. And it doesn't matter. I don't want you to think there are any small questions or big questions. Every question you have. And I'm going to set up some time tomorrow, and I'm going to serve you, and I'm going to answer your questions, because the person who adds the most value to people, or perceived value, they're the ones who always get the sales, right? So let's say Bruce is in direct selling, and he has a $500 package. So he might say, hey, Susan, it was great to connect with you. It was great to hear about your goals. And what questions do you have in order to make a decision, get started? I might say something like this. Well, you know what? I really need to talk to Chris. $500 is a lot of money right now. And Bruce might say something like this. So what questions do you anticipate Chris having? And I'm going to be like, he's going to ask, is the value worth it? Is this stuff really, and now he knows that I have to ask Chris for financial permission in this situation. So then Bruce knows what to do with it. He'll say something like this. Well, I don't know if you know this, Susan, but it comes with a money back guarantee. Will that help your conversation with Chris? And I'll be like, yeah, it would. I don't know if you know this, Susan, but there are several clinical studies. Does that help the conversation with Chris? And so what he's doing is he's giving me the tools to have a really educated conversation, but then he also wants to set up the next follow-up. And one of my mentors said, a woman or man convinced against their will is of the same opinion still. You're not in the convincing business, but you're in the serving business. So please write that down. You're not in the convincing business, you're in the serving business. So the best way to serve people is give them the tools to make the decision, right? And then the seventh thing is really about collecting a decision. A decision is yes or no. Okay, when someone says not now, or I have to think about it, you want to get a timeline from that person. So if someone says, well, I need a week to think about it. If it's a small buying decision, like we're talking $150, $200 or whatever, chances are they're stringing you along, right? So in that case, you could say, listen, Sherry, you're an amazing woman. Love you to pieces. What do you think is going to be different a week from now? And I know some of you are like, I can't talk like that. Yes, you can. Because if you don't respect your own time, no one else will either. If you don't respect yourself, no one else will either. And you can say things. I'm a very loving person. You can say things in a very loving way. I could say something like, Bruce, love you, man. You are awesome. I want to work with you. I would love for you to be on my team. And if Bruce says, let me think about it for a week, I could say, listen, Bruce, we've been friends for 5 years. And one of the many things I love about you is you have an incredible heart. So let me ask you this question. Is there anything holding you back? Are there any fears you have? And then change the direction of the conversation. Bruce might say, well, I've tried many of these things before. I'm a little nervous. Okay, Bruce, what evidence would you need to see that you had made the right decision? Well, I'd have to know if the products worked. And I'd say, honey, you're not going to know if the products worked a week from now because you won't have tried them. Do you see where I'm going with this? You always want to pivot people back to making some kind of decision so you know where to spend the majority of your time. Does that make sense? Hopefully it does. The last thing I want to say is that I want to share a story about assumptions. And, again, I'm so grateful, that you're all here and you love these BPMs. And, if I went really fast, don't forget, we put them up on iTunes on the Susan Sly Project. We're in 109 countries. And I love to serve you guys. I really do. So hopefully today's topic is valuable, but please indulge me. I'm just going to finish with this story. So back in 2001, I was purchasing leads and I was cold calling for my network marketing business back in those days. And I was, I'd call people I'd get hung up on. I get called nasty names. Why are you calling me? Where did you get this number? And I used to sweat. And so one day I said, you know what? enough's enough. You know, I go into work, I am the business manager for the largest health club chain in the world. I have built the most successful team in the history of this company. So what I started to do at night, I put my little baby, AJ, I put him in a laundry basket beside me. And in our apartment, I'd put on a suit, and I'd start to make my calls, and I'd put on heels, and I'd stand up, and I'd have posture, and I'd have presence. And that changed the tone of things. So I was starting to get in a groove, and I was booking people to come to these, you know, amazing info sessions and stuff like that. And I was starting to recruit people. And so what I would do is I'd make my calls, and I often worked on Wednesday night. So I'd make my calls on Tuesday, and I'd book the follow-up on Thursday. So one night I have this great conversation with this man. We have the follow-up set on Thursday. I said to Chris, I know he's going to sign up. I'm so excited. So Thursday comes, and I call him at the appointed time, and no answer. And I get mad. I'm like, he's no-showing me, and I'm furious, and I'm in my head, and I'm telling myself a story. Have any of you ever done that? You tell yourself a story, right? So I tell myself the story, and so I'm furious. I'm like, I'm going to give him a piece of my mind. I'm going to leave a message. And I call back, and this woman picks up the phone crying. And she's like, hello. And I'm like, is David there? And she said, who is this? And I said, well, my name is Susan, and I had an appointment with David. And she just started bawling. She said, he died this afternoon of a massive heart attack. And I thank God, not that David died, but I thank God that I got humbled enough. And one of the things I learned back in 2001 that I've never forgotten to this day is not to tell yourself a story about a person. So maybe you're following up and the person's not getting back to you, or maybe they're screening their calls, or whatever happens. Just know that everyone is going through their own stuff. Everyone is going through their own journey, and you can't take it personally. When you hear that sales is a numbers game, it is. And my final message is that at the end of the day in sales, you want to have loving detachment. You know, you can love people, but you can still have that detachment from them. Right? I have family members who my network marketing product, they won't use it. One of them even called it crap. I'm not even kidding you. And I'm like, this could help you so much, but you don't see the value in it. I find it very insulting, but I still love that person. It's the loving detachment. I have people who didn't invest in Radius. They're, you know, amazing people. They definitely could invest. And I was like, well, you know, take it personally, but no, just have loving detachment. When people say no to you, or they're calling your product garbage, or whatever they're doing, it's an opportunity for you to grow. It's an opportunity to be on the potter's wheel and to get stronger and not take it personally. Because at the end of the day, salespeople make the most money. Even Warren Buffett's a salesperson, Bill Gates a salesperson, Mark Zuckerberg's a salesperson. The salespeople make the most money. Because whether you're selling a product or a service or an idea, ultimately at the end of the day, you are selling something. So with that, I love you. Thank you so much for being here. Next Monday is Labor Day, so we might not be here at our regular time, but I will do a show next week for you guys. Again, if you have a topic, just go to susansly.com. And again, if you want to get organized with me, this is the last class of Organize Your Life that I'm going to be teaching live in the schedule as my days get fuller and fuller. And so use the code LuckyCat. I would love to work with you. 6 weeks we get to work together. It would be so amazing. And I want to help you get organized and focused so you can lead a more ridiculously fulfilling life. So with that, God bless. You're amazing. And I'll see you next week. Bye, everyone.